Hey, well, tonight I'm angry that we're being treated like sheep. I cast your mind back to about 6 months ago when this COVID-19 pandemic first reared its head, and we were asked to please shelter in place, stay indoors, flatten the curve. That became the mantra: flatten the curve, flatten the curve. Well, this is what the curve actually looks like. This is daily new cases, and this takes us back to the beginning of the pandemic. And you can see that after the initial surge and then the subsequent surge in June, the curve has indeed been flattened. And it's even more evident if you look at the daily new deaths, where you can see that the curve has been flattened. It was rising to over 2,000. We successfully tamped it down. It's now between 1,000 and 2,000, and it looks like it's going to stay that way for a while, but we did flatten the curve, and now it looks like that was just to desensitize us, because our governments, and when I say our governments, I mean the people of the world, governments around the world almost unanimously are heading off a cliff. They are not listening to the science. They're not looking at the numbers. They're basing this off their fear of being shown to have acted incompetently, and they feel that if they overact, they cannot be criticized for that as much as they'll be criticized for not reacting quickly enough. So what is the actual status of the COVID-19 infections around the world? Well, I'll show you some amusing stories. This is two old ladies in Australia. They are being arrested for sitting on a park bench outside in the sunshine. This may seem crazy and inconceivable, but it is happening. There was a pregnant Instagram influencer who was arrested for trying to organize an anti-lockdown protest. Arrested for that. She's pregnant, by the way. Is this justified? Are these measures justified? We understand that we have to act in the interests of public health, but are these measures supported by the science? Well, here are some graphs. I showed you daily new cases. I'll show it to you again. This is daily new cases as of today, from the beginning of the year, essentially. And this is daily new deaths for the same time period. This is another way of looking at it. Imagine that our testing is increasing, and this is research that is thanks to Bank of America. And you can see that daily new COVID cases are increasing, but it's because testing has increased dramatically. The number of tests is up by 23%, and the number of new cases is up by 17%. It's hard to argue that that shows that the disease is increasing its foothold in our population. It seems the increase in cases just seems to result from an increase in the number of tests. And you can see that all of the data, if we look at actual data, it seems to bear out the fact that governments are reacting to a crisis that has passed. Here are US COVID hospitalizations, and you can see that after the initial jump and then a subsequent jump through July, that we are back down almost to the lows since this COVID-19 pandemic began. Here is the positivity rate. You can see that after almost doubling in July, we are back down to under 4%. The crisis seems to have ended. There will be pandemics. There always are pandemics. There have been pandemics since before recorded time, whether you call them epidemics, pandemics, plagues, whatever you call them. The human body is vulnerable to these microscopic infections, and we have to learn to live with them. We cannot shelter in our homes indefinitely. People who are telling us not to go outside are being paid. They have jobs. What about the millions who do not? Not only do not have a job, their job doesn't exist for them anymore, even when lockdown ends. And for what? Because we're basing our decisions on science that is not based on real numbers. Let me show you these numbers again. Increased testing results in an increased number of cases. Isn't that pretty straightforward? And yet around the world, governments have seized this opportunity to demonstrate that they are responsive, that they are responsible, that they can be trusted to do the right thing. Instead, we've learned that they cannot. The only thing that we've really learned from this is that government overreach is endemic around the world. And it seems almost impossible now to imagine how we're ever going to get it back. Is there going to be a political candidate in the US who's going to speak out against the establishment? I can't imagine it. I mean, look at what this particular candidate has suffered at the hands of the establishment. And this is a rich guy who's certainly got a thick skin, has been insulted by many people his whole life, and in many cases he laughs at it. I can't imagine anybody voluntarily stepping into that role again. The establishment seems to have won. People in Australia, old ladies being arrested on benches. Here in the States, gyms being shut down, restaurants being shut down. People are disappearing. Their jobs are disappearing. Their lives are disappearing. Suicides are through the roof. Murder rates are through the roof. Police are being defunded. And all we look at is, oh, the number of cases is going up. And we don't stop to think, well, maybe it's because there's more testing. Please, can we not just grow up and take a look at facts like adults? Do we always have to be dragged around by our emotions like young children redirected from this fancy to another? Can't we look at the data ourselves? The infection rate is coming down. The number of deaths is coming down. We were asked to flatten the curve, and we did. Now we're being asked to destroy our own lives voluntarily. That is an ask too big. And what's scary is this is what governments are asking of their citizens all around the world. Is it too late? Perhaps. Please let's wake up.